Since July, we've seen at least 7 carriers pull back on services to China. So some are simply flying less frequently, others are taking smaller jets. But really what we're seeing for the most part is most carriers simply announcing that they are canceling or suspending services altogether. Now, this includes airlines from British Airways to Lufthansa. But for 2 carriers, this represents the end of the line for services connecting their home territories with China. That's true for both Virgin Atlantic and Scandinavian Airlines. Now, more cancellations are expected to follow as the closure of Russian airspace requires European airlines to travel longer routes, which means costlier routes, making it hard to compete with Chinese airlines. However, these European carriers, well, they're still flying to many parts of Asia, Singapore, Tokyo, and the like. So what is it about China? Well, we can see here there's another issue. It is lack of demand. This is what was cited by Qantas when it pulled back and suspended its Sydney to Shanghai route just a few months ago. Now, we continue to see a slow rebound of travel, both in and out of China. Fewer travelers leaving, both for leisure and business purposes, as the economy continues to struggle. But also geopolitical tensions, causing a lot of people in the West to have second thoughts about traveling back into the country.
I wonder, what are the far-reaching implications of this story? And is there a time frame for which these, that they've laid these stoppages, or is it something that's here to stay?
You know, interestingly, 2 of the carriers sort of couched this announcement in terms of being a seasonal thing, saying after China's winter is over, perhaps the routes would come back. BA, for its part, saying it will reevaluate a year from now. But it is widely anticipated that once demand comes back, yes, these routes will come back as well. But really, the most interesting thing right now we're seeing is how different this is compared to most countries' travel recovery, where you saw air capacity continuing to increase, the trajectory continuously going upward. We're seeing China, of course, the last major economy to open post-pandemic. We're seeing a retreat, which makes it quite different from other spots. Now, for the airline's point of view, John Grant, he is the chief analyst from OAG, whom I spoke to for a story that we published on CNBC.com. He says for the airlines, this makes perfect sense. He called it a no-brainer. He said, in an era where you have a shortage of planes, pilots, and parts, you simply can't afford to fly planes that are half full. So the airlines are taking these planes, redeploying them on more lucrative routes. But the interesting part, and the head scratcher, he says, is as the European carriers are canceling these routes, the Chinese carriers are adding them back in. He says he can see the data, he can see the demand. There is simply no necessity for this. So I asked, well, why do you think that this is happening? He said, for his part, he believes that the perception of returning to normalcy is more important maybe here than the cost implications of doing so.